back to This Week on 33rd Street. I am your host, Senior Sports Editor Stephen Tidings. Joining me are Sports Editors Ian Lamar Wennick and Holden Walter McGinnis. So, to start off this week in Penn football, Holden, can you recap a little bit of the gory details of last week's loss?
I mean, last week against Villanova, it was pretty rough. I mean, you have a first half where Villanova puts up 41 points and you get a long Wilcox touchdown, but that's more than half of Penn's yards. Obviously, the offense really struggling to get anything going against a tough Wildcats defense, and John Robertson really just having his way with the Penn defense, especially the secondary. It was a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, all three of us were there, and that game was just kind of a disaster. It's kind of the perfect advertisement of why Penn shouldn't be playing Villanova. But in terms of a perfect advertisement for why people should love to go to Penn football games, Ian, can you take us through what happened in last year's Penn-Dartmouth matchup, who Penn is facing again this weekend to start Ivy play?
Well, Stephen, you and I covered that game last year against Dartmouth, a 4-overtime thriller that Penn won 37-31. It was probably one of the best games in program history. A game that, frankly, should have ended multiple times before Kyle Wilcox scored the game-winning touchdown, but Dartmouth's kicker Riley Lyons shanked a kick and had another block by David Park in regulation. And I remember in the press conference after, Dartmouth linebacker Mike Runger said, "It feels like we should be going out there to play a fifth overtime." And this isn't a fifth overtime, but this is as close as you can get. Dartmouth, led by dual-threat QB Dalen Williams, is definitely looking for revenge.
Yeah, I mean, and with Dan Davis's status a little bit unclear for this week, Coach said that Davis is likely to practice today, but at the same time, we don't know his status for Saturday. How do you think Penn's defense, having given up a total of 72 points in their first two games, are going to react against another strong offense in Dartmouth and Dallin Williams leading them, Victor Williams at wide receiver, a few other targets? It's going to be a tough matchup, right?
Well, I think Penn's going to need to rely on its playmakers. You're going to need to rely on established guys like Dan Wilk, senior corner, who you can reliably shut down to handle a good zone in the field. I think you also need to rely on younger players. If Davis can't go, you're going to see Donald Pancello come in, and he's got good lateral movement, and I think he can fulfill the same role that Davis played against John Robertson. And that is to be sort of a quarterback spy up on the line and then going back and tracking that quarterback's every move on the field. I think Pancello can do a good job of that if Davis can't go.
Yeah, and so with that in mind, what are your predictions for this weekend, Holden?
Well, I mean, I think quarterback Dalen Williams is going to be a little bit too much for the Penn defense to handle, especially after how they handled Robertson. Dartmouth's got a lot of weapons, and I don't see too many ways that the Penn defense get some stops on them. So I'm going to call it Dartmouth 31, Penn 28 in a close one.
Ooh, another close Penn-Dartmouth matchup. It seems like that is the status quo every year. Close, hard-fought matchups. Ian, what are your thoughts?
Well, I don't think Dartmouth has the same running game they did last year when they went up and down the field on the Quakers at Franklin Field. I think Penn is coming into this game embarrassed, and I don't think they want to start the Ivy season behind the 8 ball and get into a position of desperation as they hit fall break and go up to Fordham. I think they're going to take this one 27-21.
Yeah, I think it'll be very, very interesting to watch. Dartmouth's also coming off of another, pretty significant loss. They lost by 33 to New Hampshire. So I'm going to say that Penn is going to eke this one out. It's always close. So I'll say Penn wins this one 27-24, game-winning kick by Jimmy Gamble. Kind of a contrast from last year where Dartmouth lost because of some missed field goals. So for Holden McGinnis and for Ian Wennick, I'm Stephen Tidings, and this has been This Week on 33rd Street. Have at it, folks.